speed and flexibility is kind of the biggest thing that private lending can do as opposed to maybe a larger bank. Most deals I review are outside the box. For a private lender, I mean, you're talking to an approver.
I do. We know each other, but my name is Alyssa Antoci. I'm our head of shared services. Just kidding. My name is Alyssa Antoci. I'm our executive vice president of shared services here at Asset-Based Lending.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Matt Borba. I'm the head of asset management here at Asset-Based Lending.
This is my first podcast ever, and I don't even know why I signed up for it at all because I don't really know how to talk.
Because I feel like we can really give the people what they need, and I feel like once we get started, we're just going to be naturals on camera.
That's true. I've been with ABL for about 4 years, and in the hard money or private lending space for about 4 years. So my knowledge base is 4 years old. So I'm very excited for this podcast to be able to learn more along the way from experts like Matt, who we have today.
Please. Guys, you're making me blush. I've also been here for about 4 years. 99% of what I know, I've learned on the job just through trainings, through coaching from various people here at the company, and also just through all the relationships we made over the years. So we have a lot of knowledge we want to share with everyone and just tell what's going on in the market and, you know, why you should choose hard money lending.
Yeah. And the name of our podcast is Calculated Interest. Pretty catchy.
It's a play on words too.
Yeah, it is. And essentially we want to just help, you know, our audience and each other kind of learn why private lending is awesome and why it's like a really sustainable way to ultimately build wealth through real estate.
Yeah, it's different than your conventional banking. It's a real shift that popped up in the last 10, 15 years, where basically we're taking on loans that banks are usually going to balk at and they're not going to want to take on, whether that be renovations, fix and flips, and ground up constructions. If you have that as your need to build your real estate portfolio, you would look into hard money lending and look into this space.
That's facts. Should we say a little bit about our company, ABL, Asset-Based Lending?
Yeah. So ABL came to the space around the same time that hard money lending started really popping off, about 10, 15 years ago. It had 3 founders, that one of them is still with the company today. And it started based out of New Jersey, expanded down the East Coast, and now we're pretty much nationwide at this point.
Yeah, totally nationwide. Yeah, we've done 3.3 billion funded. We've done over 7,000 projects. We've got some pretty notable accolades, which I won't mention. But just tell you a little bit about ABL. But ultimately, this podcast, although brought to you by ABL, is really focused on a way to bring our knowledge and information as a company. So we'll have tons of folks on here, some of our amazing clients, notable people that we meet in the industry to help investors grow. So although ABL is always within the fabric of what we do because they're paying us, this is our job ultimately. But we really are here to help investors.
Yeah, and just explain what we're seeing, what's profitable, what's not, right? Like markets that you want to go into, ones that you want to stay out of, the best way to prepare for a loan to get it closed in a timely manner. We're going through all the different facets of the process. So for us right now, and where we're going to be talking about is a lot what we're seeing in the market today, where we're seeing a lot of inventory. Seeing a lot of inventory across the country. Where you're not really seeing those kind of problems is the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. But we are seeing areas that banks are pulling out in droves. They don't want to take loans on over there. They're incredibly risky, and there's oversupply. So where ABL comes in, we like to get creative. We like to also create homes that you're going to be fixing and flipping to sell. You're going to be creating new construction projects that you're also going to sell, or you can also hold. So we have 2 different options, 2 different product types, along with other people in the industry of just how you can kind of handle your investments. So we have a diverse portfolio and diverse product line that can pretty much suit anyone's needs.
It's true. So I guess what I would think be interesting is when you first heard about hard money, like what did you think? Because I thought, what is that? Doesn't sound Hard money, I think, is a deceiving title because I thought it was like kind of weird. I was like, is this cash for gold?
I swear I'm not lying. And I said hard money the other day to someone like I was getting lunch with, and they said, what, opposed to soft money? Which wasn't funny at all. But like, no one really knows what it is. I've never heard that terminology before I applied for this job. And I was lying through my teeth when I was going through the interview process that I did understand it. And even now, like, it's not a regular term, but basically you're funding investment properties.
Yeah.
Right. That's the easiest way to put it. It's a different type of loan that's typically a shorter term that you have for the loan and higher interest rate for that reason, being that these are inherently riskier project than just a standard mortgage. There's so many different ways of coming into the financing. Like you mentioned, you can either be pulling, be some kind of larger conglomerate. You have some partners that are very much boots on the ground. Maybe they're the GC of a project overseeing the actual management. And then you have a silent partner that's just funding financially. So there's so many different creative ways that you can get into the space.
Totally. And it's really valuable because like opposed to a bank, you know, like a banking institute where they're looking at the person or the individual to lend on, we're looking at the actual value of the transaction. We're looking at like, okay, what is the after repair value of this? Is it actually going to sell? Like, what's the exit strategy? Is this a good investment? Because ultimately we're taking our cash, our hard money, and we're investing in your property or in your, you know, your vision. And so that's how we're coming up with our decisions, our underwriting decisions, which Greg can say a lot more, but we are coming up with those decisions because we believe in your investment. And that's why it's like, it's a super sustainable approach ultimately, because we, you know, if you find a great like lender, like, you know, ABL is, you have steady, sustainable capital, you know that you'll be able to fund your loan and you won't have to rely on like more arduous or individual requirements. We're looking at, do you have experience? If you don't, then we have to ask for a little bit more, of course, because it becomes riskier.
Yep.
We're looking at like, is this actually going to sell at the price that you think it's going to sell? Is you know what I'm saying?
No,
So,
I mean, honestly, you're crushing it, by the way, because it's 100% accurate, and it's really that, right? It's does the product make sense?
Right.
Does the scope of work of what you're doing actually add up, and will you get that end number that you're telling us you will? Pretty much, if it's there, and if you have the cash to close, it's pretty much a good deal and ready to go.
yeah, and I think it's cool. I'm like excited for our guests today because, you know, from my perspective, you know, as an investor, like what better knowledge than to think about it from the lens of an underwriter. If the underwriter isn't going to do this loan, it's because they don't believe that the loan is going to be successful. And as an investor, like nobody wants to do an unsuccessful loan. So I'm excited to bring ultimately like that value.
Yeah, and just someone that could also just give you some more leveling on what you need to be bringing to the table, what kind of documentation you should have in place, so the process is as smooth as possible. If you get your underwriter everything they're going to need, you're going to be closing in a timely manner. You'll be happy. They'll be happy.
So true. So yeah, we're going to cover all this fun stuff at Calculated Interest. And hopefully we have fun while we're doing it. It got really serious.
It got really serious.
I didn't expect to get so serious about private lending, but it is, you know.
You were kind of cooking for a bit, and I was kind of just watching you go. So yeah, no, but I'm excited to talk about it. It's a field that I'm genuinely interested in, and just seeing how people get into these projects and what they decide to do. I mean, if you have the backing, you have the creativity for it, especially if you have the connections in whatever area you're working in. I mean, sky's kind of the limit what you can do here with us.
Yeah. I hope we learn, and then we build our portfolios, and then, you know, so on.
And then we learn them, the next generation.
Learn them.
We learn them.
Okay. Anything else? Oh yeah, introducing our guest.
Yeah. So
who is he?
I was told he's actually a incredibly seasoned underwriter. Really built out the bridge program and the head of the bridge program over there. Years of insight, came from actually a traditional space and moved over here to us.
Yeah.
And just extremely knowledgeable, very, very handsome, and I think you have a lot to say.
It's true, and I think I've heard he's a genius. Have you heard that?
I've heard the same thing. I mean, he's got the glasses to prove it.
That's facts. So his name is Greg Flax, and he'll be with us today.
Yeah.
All right.
Just gotta get negativity, hate everyone out of me.
That's how you started.
Got him a laugh.
It works out.
I knew it would. See, we're good. We're flowing. We're good. All right.
Well, okay. We have a very interesting person here today.
The most interesting guy that I know.
Greg Flax, would you mind giving a little intro on yourself for the viewers?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. That's quite the introduction. Most interesting man here. Okay, you know, I'll take it.
Like the Dos Equis man, but less tan.
Same amount of gray though in the hair.
I do see the touch up. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I got started in banking when I was 20 years old. That my first ever job was internship in commercial real estate. Levered that into becoming a full-time underwriter for specifically multifamily. I was in the banking world, financial institution, not on Wall Street. I was in Midtown, but still to where all the banks really were located for 6 years before coming here to ABL. And where my main background is multifamily, came here, tried something new, and the residential space really piqued my interest, especially in 2020 and 2021 when I did shift over here to asset-based lending.
What?
From where?
From our
The one thing you're not supposed to say.
Sorry,
the one thing. Just bleep that out. Bleep that one little. I'll say from Capital One to here. Just bleep that one out. It's fine. When I came from 2020 to 2021, when I came over from a bank to asset-based lending, to put my hand into residential lending and really get a taste of the fix and flip and a new construction space, which now I've been here for 4 years, and it's been very different, very enlightening, and it's been a whole new mindset I've had while coming here, a new way to look at deals, a new way to look at real estate, a new way to look at really the market as a whole.
Nice. And a question I have is, when you came over from your previous place, did you know what hard money was, or did you have to look into it? And what were your thoughts on it? Or were you familiar already?
I had no idea what hard money was.
We're in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I never heard the term before. Private lending was a brand new sector, brand new piece of real estate for me. Honestly, all I knew when I came over here was I'm going from 500 unit apartment buildings to residential 1 to 4 units. And I went from there. It was really, I wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn a new asset class. I was in the commercial space. At that time in 2020, 2021, the retail space, office space, markets were not doing very well. Obviously, the COVID hit, shift to working from home, city, urban office, not doing great. Retail was declining previously already. Really industrial, multifamily were still on the ups. But residential was interesting to me. I thought, hey, I want to own my own home one day. Maybe I do want to buy an investment property or hold something as a rental. And that's where residential space really piqued my interest. But no idea what to expect. Hard money lending, I think I learned that probably day one on the job after I accepted.
Yeah. I was telling them that I was lying my way through the interview because I had no idea what was going on when I first got on.
Wouldn't say I lied my way through the interview, but I definitely left some, blind spots out.
I wouldn't say that either out loud in front of court. But what I would say is the big shift going from 500 units in multifamilies down to 1 in 4, that's where it's kind of our bread and butter. Are you starting to see that in this current market, what we have with hard money lending, that multifamily is struggling a little more so with residential staying stronger? Or do you say they're about the same in terms of an investor coming into the space they should be looking for?
I would say I've seen more of a shift to the residential space from the multifamily space.
Right.
The ability to get financing has changed. I think now ability to get financing multifamily is back up. A lot of lenders, a lot of banks, financial institutions are back in. But there was a time where a lot of loans that were closed for multifamily in 2019, 18, 2020, 2021 closed at a 3% interest rate. And they were sized to, I'm sorry, I'm getting too in the weeds here.
This is exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
Where those loans were sized to basically the minimum guidelines. So any rise in interest rate meant that loan was underwater. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So a lot of these larger banks at that time had to take a step back, relook at their portfolios, and really assess the risk of what they have on their books, where these loans were coming due 5-7 years later in 2023, for example, 2024, where a loan they made to a property that was worth $20 million might not be worth $15 million,
right?
Where the cash flow didn't work. So that's where some of the multifamily lenders took a step back and had to reassess and take a look at their portfolios. Residential is interesting because you had a lot of shift in people moving. in 2020 and 2021 outside of urban areas into the Southeast, for example, into the Sun Belt, into other places like Arizona, outside in other locations, California. Here in the tri-state area, people left Manhattan. They started buying houses in other suburbs of New Jersey. Upstate New York, which is a typical rural area, had some booming markets because people were buying their second, became a primary home in a little more rural, more tertiary, secondary market. So you saw a shift into residential where you had a lot of people moving. Interest rates were still low at that time, where, I know people who I got a friend who bought a house in 2020 out on Long Island, less than 3% interest rate. So
That's
the investments there, it was better to buy homes then. And you had fix and flippers, you had developers and builders building houses, and the demand to sell those in a market that was booming, it was right there for the taking.
I guess I'll ask a very simple question. If you future Greg, which is you now, could talk to first day ABL Greg, how would you describe private lending to them? And what would you say how would you describe why it's so valuable?
Fast.
Yeah.
Speed and flexibility is kind of the biggest thing that private lending can do as opposed to maybe a larger bank. Larger banks, they're a lot more policies and procedures, a lot more guidelines, multiple levels of approvals. Here, for a private lender, you're talking to an approver. So right here is someone who approves every loan that comes through the desk. Private lending can move much quicker, 1 to 2 weeks. Even we've closed loans here in 3 days before.
Yep.
I remember we once closed a $3 million loan in 3 days.
That's insane.
That was quick. It was for a top tier borrower of ours, and there were some pieces already in place, but the fact that we were able to do that was really impressive. Yeah. We could also be flexible here too, where a loan that most deals I review are outside the box. There's usually some piece of it that, if here's the guidelines, there's a piece here, piece over there. There's just pieces all outside the box everywhere. So we have the flexibility here as a private lender to be like, okay, that still makes some sense. We can still work with that and find a way to still approve your deal. Might not fit the box completely, but it still fits our box as a whole. Right. And we can make it work for the investor. So speed, being able to close within a week, that's times I never saw in my previous job. Banks have other positives they can do. There's some great things they can do. But for here, the speed and flexibility has been huge. It really does set private lenders apart.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And you kind of touched on this, and I wanted to kind of go in more in depth there. Kind of just the borrower relationship you have, right? When you have these repeat people that keep coming back, they have a similar product, or we know that they're really seasoned in a particular space, maybe with a ground up construction, or they do some form of cookie cutter homes. It just makes it that much easier for them to get through the process. And then that's how we kind of grow their portfolio, right? And they kind of grow in the space. They might start off with 2 or 3 fix and flips or round trips once they actually exit the loan. And then after that, we kind of give them more trust. So I feel like even the ability to scale with us is another thing. It's pretty unprecedented compared to just traditional lending.
And we have a lot of investors that do that.
Yep.
I can think of a few off the top of my head that started when I started about 4 years ago, and now they've have 20 plus round trips with us. Right. If it's a similar project, it's a rinse and repeat underwrite. Yep. It's a rinse and repeat, copy and paste process from start to finish. These big repeats of ours, they'll submit a loan officer will submit a loan for them, and then within 24 hours they'll have a term sheet. Within maybe 2 hours they'll have a term sheet. If it's really the same rinse and repeat type project, they'll have a term sheet within a few hours.
Which we see a lot. We do see
all the time. Yep. All the time. And we have provided these investors the ability to scale where they know us, they know our loan officer, they know the underwriter who they're going to talk to review the deal, they know their processor, they know their draws manager. That ability to know who you're working with, you can have a connotation of a bank or a lender, however you see fit, but there is a human aspect to what we do here, where you know the people that you're working with to get your loan closed. And that trust that these borrowers do have from start to finish if they really want to scale, we have clients that do 5 properties at once. We have clients that do 10 properties at once. Loan got submitted today for 16 properties at once. That is a repeat borrower of ours who has 6 round trips and another four coming within the next maybe 90 days. So we can scale with them. They want to do a now 16 unit project in the same market. They've paid off 10 loans with us. We can make that work. So we have clients like that. We have clients who we did their first project who now have 4 round trips with us that now qualify for the highest leverage and maybe the lowest rate that we can offer. So they can, paying a lower rate saves their liquidity.
Yep.
Higher leverage also saves their liquidity. They can use that to invest in other projects. And as they keep going and scaling and investing with us, we keep growing with them too. And it gives them the ability to trust who they're working with. They know they know the property is going to get financing because they can go to us, for example, and they are confident when they make a down payment, even if it's a non-refundable down payment to the purchase price, they're going to close. And they're not going to lose that payment.
I'm interested. That's very interesting. I'm interested in hearing, and I'm sure this has happened and been rewarding. Do you have any examples of clients that you've worked with that maybe they did their first with you and then now are on to doing multi and build their portfolio, not multi-family, but multiple properties and build their portfolio? If so, obviously you don't have to say their names, but if so, I would be interested in hearing that. And what made them, what do you think their keys to success that you've noticed, or any trends you've noticed with investors that were able to build their portfolio and now are maybe full-time investors coming from part-time or something like that?
Their processes are very buttoned up.
Yeah.
They come in, I'm not going to think of a bunch they were 10 experienced to start with. Now they're over 100 experience. But there have been some that are lower, less than 5 when they came to us for their first project. But these investors are very buttoned up. When we get on the phone with them and go over their projects, they know the scope of work back and front.
Yep.
They walk us through every aspect of the project very thoroughly, efficiently. They know their draw schedule. They know how many draws they're going to take. They know how long it's going to take. They did their own research on their ARVs and what they're going to, after repair value, what they're going to sell the property for. Or they know if they're going to hold as a rental, they know what their projected rent is going to be at the end. So they know what they're buying the property for. Then they have a good handle of the scope of work needed to renovate or build the property. We have a bunch of builders that also have scales with us. And they know what they're going to sell the property for. So they've done their research. They came to us, understand their business plan, having a sound business plan. They understand the market. They're not trying to sell $1 million home in a market that maxes out at $400,000.
Right.
No, they're selling $1 million home in a market that calls for $1 million home. For example, we have a few investors in Paramus, New Jersey, where homes are $2 million. And these borrowers come to us, hey, here's my scope of work. Here is my end sale price, and it matches the market. We have one borrower out in Fairfield, Connecticut, who has done projects with us since before I started and continuously through when I've been here. And we can actually see his ARVs increase over time, where a property he used to build that would price at 1.5 million is now worth over 2 million. That's partly due to market appreciation, but it's also his ability to adjust, change his business plan, get good deals, and improve his own product. So over the course of 4 years, he's actually increased his end sale price almost $500,000.
It's crazy.
Pretty cool.
You also see a lot of our own people too building their own comps, which is also insane to think about.
We do see that.
Yep.
There's a few markets where when we get an appraisal back, for example, I see comp 2. I'm like, oh, I know that address. Yeah. That was this builder's, or that was the same builder's here. And we see it.
Yep.
It's also good to see that our projects are selling.
Right.
We don't want to just finance properties that have trouble being sold. Sometimes it's good to see a property come back and say, oh yeah, we financed that one. It was a successful project. Take a look at it. It was a good deal. And then if it's the same borrower, we know what they're working with. We know what the end product is going to look like.
And I think, Greg, you touched on a good thing that we wanted to talk about now, just kind of a real feel on the market now. Obviously, we're having some shifts countrywide. Mm-hmm. Is there any particular areas that you see as strong that maybe a new investor or even a seasoned investor should look into kind of dipping their toes into?
Yeah, I would say for a new investor to try to stay in the more affordable price point. That means something very different depending on the state.
Right.
But the more affordable price point is still where we're seeing some strong demand for. There's still a lot of starter homes or um, population looking to buy their first house. Or look, I'm part of that population. I'm looking to buy my first house. So the more affordable assets where we're still seeing good demand for. The Northeast and the Midwest, we're still seeing some pretty good demand where there's very low inventory. I mean, New Jersey, for example, there's no inventory anywhere. If you're located in a state where there's high inventory, your location, you have to adjust. I would stick to price points that sell. You can look this up on Zillow, for example. Yep. Even on like Realtor.com as well, Homes.com, and these kind of free comp sources where anyone wants to look at anyone who spends their time looking to buy a house for the first time. You're on these websites anyway. But just to see which price points are selling, which are not. If you see a home listed for $2.2 million and it's been listed for 250 days, it's not the right price point for that market. That's an extreme example, but that's just something to look for. If probably was listed in the market for a long time, it's not the right price point for the market. If it was listed for 20 days ago and it's already under contract, that's a good price point for the market.
Yep.
Man, I wish I had your knowledge looking for a house. Could you imagine being an underwriter and then making
that kind of
decision?
Knowledge.
I know, me too.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
it's eating me up inside.
Sometimes I know too much about what these prices are because now when I'm going to eventually look for a house, I'm like, that's too much money, but what choice do I have? Yeah. I'm going to buy it anyway because I'm buying a house for myself is going to be buying a house for family, not necessarily for an investment, but also in a low inventory, high demand market like it is up here in the Northeast, it's going to be tough.
So true. I guess same like on the flip side of the question around like things that you've noticed that makes them successful, like folks that you've noticed that maybe like overexpose themselves or can you do you have any examples or like pitfalls you've seen along the way where somebody was like on their way up and then had to stop? Or
I've seen this a lot actually. The biggest, I guess, common denominator here is the borrowers stretch themselves too thin and they run out of cash. They over-leverage themselves, spread themselves too thin, and they run out of money. Where they take on 5, 6, 7 projects at once, and as they draw, their loan balance goes up. They have to pay interest on, and now someone who might say they have $500,000 in the bank across 5 projects, depending on where you're located, those could be, let's be 5 $200,000 loans. It could be 5 $600,000 loans. That's $3 million worth of interest you're paying. Yep. So when they get stretched too thin, their crews might be bouncing around. They might lose handle on which projects at what stage. And they still have to carry these properties through paying interest and through paying taxes and insurance. And we've seen investors who used to be able to take on multiple projects at once. Now we're seeing them get stretched too thin. They're running out of cash. Maybe there was a delay in one project. Their permits are taking 8 months on one project, so that one's delayed. Now their timelines and their schedules are all messed up, and they can't sell the homes when they need to. Maybe that home's now finished in the winter months, which in Northeast, homes don't sell as frequently in the winter months than they do in, let's say, May, June, or July. Just less people looking to move when it's 10 degrees outside. So that's the main factor I see for borrowers that do run into issues. It's, there are external factors like a permit delay, approvals delay, just anything with municipalities. Can't really control for that all the time, unfortunately, but it's where borrowers take on too much that they can handle. They stretch themselves too thin and then run out of cash. I mean, cash is king anywhere you go. And if you have a lot of cash, you can at least float yourself for X amount of time. But when that money runs out, there are problems.
And Greg, piggybacking off that, because we see this so much off the space, is that usually it's our seasoned borrowers that are having that problem. It's those guys that have done those 10, 15 round trips that have now exposed themselves so much that one domino falls and everything goes. It's usually our seasoned guys.
Which is one of the crazier things that I think we've realized together as we review these, where running down a list of loans that have some issues, like that's a 10 experience, that's a 10 experience. He has 5 round trips with us. Like every time. He has 6 round trips. So I was like, what's going on here? but it's because they took on too much at once and they ran out of money. There's a very few times we see the too experienced borrower who spread themselves too thin.
Yep.
Mainly because our underwriting guidelines, we won't approve 5 projects for a too experienced investor. We will for someone who has 5 round trips with us. So yeah, we want you to scale, but we also know the pitfalls that could happen if scale too quickly or over leverage yourself.
And I think another good point too that often pops up is paperwork, right? Like paperwork is a very real thing where it could be, it could take 8 months to 9 months to get permitting in some municipalities and towns. Where I just kind of a tip to our investors or people coming in specifically in this space, if you're better off coming in with those permits already in place, or if you're going in to increase the density on your project, if you're going in to change up some zoning, you should probably give yourself enough leeway and enough time to get that done where you can still finish the project in 12 months. It's a big thing we run into where borrowers will come into with us, they'll have a 12-month term, they'll get 9 months into the project, actually starting to work, do the paperwork, and then they're looking at extensions, looking at potential refinances out, and that's where they kind of get caught up in those pitfalls.
Yeah, we see that far too often.
Very often, yeah.
I guess this is another good tip. Understand your municipality.
Yep.
Understand the permitting timelines. Understand zoning risk. If you go into a project knowing what exact permits you need, how long approval is going to take, how you can work with the city, how long your GC needs to get his permits and his approvals and those subcontractors in place. Understand those timelines also help. Like we can move fast on our end, but at the end of the day, we're giving you 12 months. That's also fast on your end. We can provide sometimes longer terms depending on the project, where we can go potentially up to 18 months, for example. And we could go up to 18 months if we fully understand the permitting process will take 4 months.
Right.
Because we also don't want the borrower extending, paying all these extra fees.
No.
We want the borrowers to succeed. We want to fund successful projects. We want to have successful borrowers. We want the borrowers to make as much money as possible. And if they come in, understand the timelines of their approval process, their timelines of their how long it takes to get permits, when they can start, when they can start putting a shovel into the dirt, excavating, building that finished basement that you see all the time in New Jersey, or putting that slab foundation down you see all the time in Florida. If they know exact timelines and days and how months everything's going to take and having that schedule in their mind, they know what to expect, and they can relay that to us. And we also know what to expect from that project as well.
Yep, exactly.
So fun, so interesting. Do you have more questions? Should we keep going?
Honestly, as we keep going, I'm getting excited talking about the risk side of it. And now it started off as me being a little aloof, and I'm like, yeah, I want to talk about what happened, because a lot does pop up during these projects that borrowers might not be privy to. And it could, make it a little more strenuous for you, where if you are more aware what's going on, it's just so much smoother. Where sometimes there's deviation from scope of work, or they think they could just add an addition without saying anything to anybody, and it kind of puts you in a pitfall. So I think just the biggest thing that Greg's saying, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong here, just the transparency to your underwriter, transparency to your draw person, that's what's ultimately going to deliver you that amazing experience. If we know what's going on, because you know what's going on, you'll be in and out.
We'll also be willing to work with you.
Of course.
The underwriting team here is very accessible. We call every borrower.
Yep.
So before a term sheet goes out, a borrower has spoken to an underwriter. We pride ourselves on that. The accessibility and the transparency. So if there's anything about your project, the underwriter is going to talk to you about it. We're going to know. And if you have any questions, we can reach out. We will reach out. Or there's someone to talk to here as well. Even post closing, the asset management team underwriting talk every day almost. I mean, Matt and I talk literally every single day about loans. We're accessible. We're transparent. We're here to help. We're here to help the projects move along. And we just want to make sure borrowers understand that too. Them having their ducks in a row and relaying all of that information to us can really help a successful project.
It's interesting because I think the cool and unique thing about private lending is we are literally investing. We have a shared mutual interest in the success of our borrowers. We want you to be successful, like you said. I think that's a really interesting piece is the conversation with the underwriter, although different in the industry, what a valuable thing to be able to talk to the person that has all the experience with the risk, has seen the downfalls, and is actually if they choose to not move forward with your property, it's probably for a very good reason. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure it's successful. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think we've marketed in the past as you're talking to the decision makers at the company. any underwriter, the team is structured so everyone has a voice. Everyone provides their opinions. Everyone, can make a recommendation whether or not to move forward with the deal. And they're encouraged to say this deal fits ABL, this deal does not fit ABL. And there's a team of 7 of us. And even if someone doesn't have the exact stamp of approval for a loan, they're still providing the recommendation, which was a big thing, as well as why I came over here, was that ability to make decisions and have a say in actually closing loans and whether or not we're going to recommend a loan or not. And talking to the decision maker here is huge. It's something, I don't know if other private lenders do it. I don't know how often, from working at a bank, I wasn't always the one talking to the borrowers. I was more with the salesperson. But that accessibility here can really go a long way. If you really want to talk a lot of minute details about a project, your underwriter is who to go to.
We're going to wrap it up. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Any wisdom?
More than the,
more wisdom?
The abundance of wisdom that you just dropped
Right,
on me.
it. We don't have wisdom anyway.
Greg, you're so cool. I love you. My favorite person.
Overall, biggest thing, be prepared, understand your project, know what you're getting yourself into. Because if these deals do go south, they're really going to go south. End of the day, we want the borrowers to make as much money as possible so we can make money. We want everyone to make money. Everyone to be successful in whatever they're trying to do. And we're here to help our borrowers do that the best we can.
Amen.
Hell yeah. Well, all right. I'm excited for our next episode.
Good luck topping Greg.
Honestly, we should just kind of call it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. One episode for the whole series.
That's one. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
It's amazing, Greg.
Woot
Feel
woot.
good about this. Thank you, everybody.